This is an excerpt from my novella, which is titled A History of Very Rare Things, and it's set in northern Queensland on a remote property during an extended period of drought. The sheep wobbles on its spindly legs. It stumbles and falls and then struggles back into an upright position. It's kinder to kill it, he says. She crosses her arms. Your mother needs the protein, he says. We could even make soup from the head like my grandmother used to. As he leads the sheep into the barn, it bleats. She follows him. When he picks up a hammer with his ulcerated hand, she closes her eyes and covers her ears, but she still hears the hollow thud. He slits the sheep's throat, cutting through to the spinal cord and severing the major blood vessels. He hauls the carcass up onto the gambrel hook to let the blood drain. The drops of blood bounce on the dusty floor like red pearls falling from a broken necklace. When the blood flow slows to a dribble, he takes down the sheep and lays it on the floor. Holding one of the back legs between his knees, he cuts from the hoof to the rectum with a small hooked knife. He removes the foot by cutting through the first joint above the hoof. He repeats this process with the other back leg. Then he cuts each of the front legs from hoof to the front of the breastbone and removes the feet. To separate the skin and fleece from the body, he grasps the pelt and pushes his fist from the front of the sheep to the rear under the skin. When most of the skin is loosened, he pulls the fleece towards him and slices down the belly, careful not to cut into the abdomen. Then he pulls away the pelt like he's undressing a baby, careful not to cut into the abdomen. Then he peels away the pelt. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. He hangs the carcass back up. The skin sheep lies on the floor like a discarded piece of clothing. He saws through the full length of the breastbone, exposing the esophagus and windpipe. He opens the carcass from chest to groin, and the innards flop out towards him. He removes the bladder. I can make a balloon from this, he says. He lifts out the kidneys and the liver and puts them aside. With a couple of semicircular sweeps of the knife, he separates the diaphragm from the inside of the rib cage, and the contents of the chest cavity fall onto the floor with a thump. Her mother appears in the doorway. It's coming, she says. It's way too soon, he says. He saws off the sheep's head. Go back into the house, he says. I'll be there in a minute. She follows her mother into the house. In the bedroom, she watches her mother take off her dress. Bright red blood runs down her mother's legs in ribbons. Her mother rocks her head from side to side and lets out a low moan. She places her hands on her mother's stomach. It's hard, like the angel in the cemetery. She hears her father in the kitchen. She leads her mother to the bed and says, I'll get a washer. In the kitchen, her father lights a fire in the aga. Mama needs you, she says. She watches her father split the sheep's head into two. It's staring at me, she says. It's dead, he says. He removes the eyes and places the halves of the head in a pan of water. I wish we had some turnip or some carrots, he says. He pours out pearl barley from its cardboard container. The grains stick together in strings as if caught in a cobweb. Weevils, he says. Weebles, she thinks. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. It's something she's heard her father say, but he's never explained it. It doesn't matter, he says, when she asks. She once read in her grandmother's journal that you can keep weevils away by placing a bay leaf in the container. She's never seen a bay leaf, They haven't had any spices for a long time. Extra protein, her father says. He places the pan on the aga. Mama needs you, she says. I know. He stares into the pan. It's okay, he says. When they leave the kitchen, the sheep's eyes are still on the table.